Well, this is new. I am not my usual location. And if this is your first time here, let me introduce myself. My name is Lauren, and this is my little YouTube channel called Live Laugh Lauren. Here I do all things cozy and crafty as I take you along into my creative lifestyle. And based on the background, I'm currently in a hotel, Holiday Inn, am I right? Anyhow, I am working on my sweater while traveling, and I thought that that would be the perfect opportunity to talk to y'all about tips for knitting and traveling, or crochet, whatever your fiber art of choice is. But before going into that, I did want to give you a brief update as to where I am on this little test knit that I'm working on. And as a reminder, it is the Poolside Knit by Vera Grazia, also known as Knitting Faye, as you can find her on Instagram. And she has the cutest, most whimsical sword patterns. But this pattern, it utilizes a cotton yarn in a medium weight. I'm using the I Love This Cotton yarn in this beautiful purple shade. It's like regal, and I'm loving it. I feel like it's giving Odyssey. And it is this beautiful halter top that has this really nice leaf lace pattern and then this mesh on the side. So it is a mock neck, so it goes all the way up to the top of your neck and then it goes out. But as you can see, I finally joined in the round. So this pattern is worked top down, and you do the round part of the neck, then you do the front, the back, and you join in the round. And I've currently done, call it maybe 3 inches in the actual body of it. So it's getting there. I'm really excited to get this done with. I'm actually super excited because I'll be going to my first ever national park in the United States on Saturday of this week. And I'm hoping that I can finish this by then so that then I can wear it. And my idea is to actually wear it with this tank top that I have on right now. And I think it should be super duper cute, but I will need to finish it first. I don't know if that's gonna happen. We will see. And I will go ahead and preface that today I will be giving just like some tips to hopefully help you work on your project while knitting. So to begin, my first tip is to select your project very carefully. So I intentionally chose this project because there's a few reasons. One, I was already like in a good groove with it. So the point I was at with my project, it was more mindless. And I think that having a more mindless knit is really helpful, especially if you're traveling like on a plane or a train. You don't want to have to be whipping out the pattern as you're working on it. You want it to be more just knit, right? And like this pattern does have a lot of patterns with it, like a lot of slip knits, a lot of knit two together. I got to the point where I could basically memorize the pattern from just working on it on the top and on the front and the back, and now I'm at a point where I can kind of freely go with it. So my first tip is to select your select your project very carefully. I would also recommend to pick a pattern that is, while simple, also on the smaller size. So I wouldn't recommend working on your oversized cardigan or oversized sweater when you're traveling. It's chunky and it takes up a lot of space. If you have the space, go for it. And maybe if it's just the beginning of it, so like just starting the yoke, I think that that's fine. Also, don't take my advice as like, do what you want. This is just what I've learned for the past. I have found that when working on sweaters and traveling, it's better to just take it if I'm like yoke, and that's really helpful because it's still on the smaller size. I would also recommend socks. Those are a really good knitting thing to bring because they're small, the needles are small. It's typically more mindless because you're usually just doing stockinette stitch, which means that you're just knitting. There's no purling really. And it's pretty simple. You're just like, and there's a lot to do on a sock because there's a lot of stitches since it's a smaller gauge typically. Another easy one to bring would maybe be a hat. That would be a pretty simple one, doesn't take up a lot of space. I always opt for some like tops and short sleeve tops because those also don't take up a lot of space. I will say that also with tank tops and all these other projects I've listed, none of them require a lot of yarn. So say you're traveling for a couple weeks, you don't want to have to lug around a bunch of your chunky yarn so that you have enough yarn to keep going with whatever you're making. Like this project, I only needed 2 other balls of yarn from this. Yes, this is like the freaking, it looks like Tangela, like the Pokemon. Anyhow, I didn't need a lot of extra yarn from this, so I was able to like easily pack for it. Like it's on my bag. And that brings us to point 2. Make sure to have all of your stuff in like a bag and have it all together. In terms of the things that you'll need if you are traveling while knitting or crocheting, is you will need your project, you'll need the yarn, you'll need the tools, whether that be your knitting needles or your hooks for crochet. With knitting needles, I don't love bringing my entire Shiagu set, so I'll tend to only bring the needles that I'm actively working on. And a lot of times in like patterns, you'll have to use different size needles. And in that case, I won't bring the other ones. I'll just bring whatever I'm actively working on and hope I don't get to the ribbing section where I need a different size, because I don't want to bring it without the case. I don't want to lose it. I would also recommend bringing some stitch markers, and make sure to bring enough, because if you don't, then you'll have to resort to using a hair tie as a stitch marker. That was better than using my ring. This is still not optimal in my opinion, because it's making like a loop. Like I go over here, it's not nice and even tension there in that spot. Make sure you bring enough stitch markers. It's the little things to remember. I also always like to bring a small pair of scissors. Emphasis on small, especially if you're flying. Make sure to check the TSA guidelines. I believe you can bring scissors as long as it's less than 3 inches from the pivot point to the end of the scissors. So let me go grab the ones I have. These are my little baby scissors. And as you can see, from here to here is less than 3 inches. They're very tiny, but very cute. And I actually did need them when I was on the plane, so I was able to whip them out. And TSA cannot take these away from you because they are within the guidelines for it. So just make sure not to bring the big old kitchen scissors. Those are not going to pass through TSA. They're going to be seen as a weapon. I would also recommend a tape measure, and that's just to make sure you're like in the right length that you need to. And this isn't necessary if you are just knitting like off of vibes. It's just up to you really. But I would highly recommend to bring stitch markers. Those are always what I end up forgetting. And another hard thing to bring is to bring enough yarn, because you don't want to bring too much where it like up your entire bag in case you end up buying more wherever you're going to, right? But you do want to bring enough that you have enough to work on. So I tend to bring like more skein than I think I need. So I was like, I probably will finish this while I'm here on my travel. So I did end up bringing all the yarn I needed, but it didn't need a lot because the project doesn't call for a lot. And I think that was really helpful in terms of like not much to bring. My next small tip is to make sure you have your pattern downloaded or printed. I have run into this issue many times before where I'm working on something and I don't have the pattern downloaded, and then I'm in a place where I don't have internet, like on a boat, so I can't download the pattern from my iCloud. So just make sure to do that mental check of going back and checking that you can actually access it, because the last thing you want to do is sit on the plane, get comfy, cozy, you get buckled in, you put your phone on airplane mode, you whip out your project, you're taking off, you're getting excited to start on your project for the next 2 hours, and then you don't have access to the pattern. That sucks. It really does suck. But if you did pick a really simple project, then chances are you don't need that, because you're just doing simple stockinette like a sock or something. Just let that help guide you in terms of picking your patterns when you're trying to choose what project to bring. I also would advise against not starting a new project. I find that if I continue on with one, it feels more natural and it's just easier to continue. Like, I have done gauge watches before while traveling, and that's nice, but then I can't really block it. Like, I can get an idea and like see how the stitches are laying out, but I can't get an idea of how they're actually going to block out. So then it's hard to continue on with the project. And also, like, if you start a project, it's just difficult in terms of making sure that everything is beginning off right. I'd rather like on with the project that's like done, that I'm already doing well in, than have to start like project, work on a 20% and then realize it's not just gonna work out. Another tip that I would just remind you of is, if you do choose to knit or crochet in public, you will get comments. And one way I have found to avoid this, because I am a bit introverted sometimes, if you don't want people to talk to you, put on your headphones. I'm telling you, if you have on headphones, no one will talk to you and you can just knit in peace. And it's honestly really nice. Earbuds probably aren't going to work as well, but also it is really fun to talk to people about it because typically people will know someone else that crochets or knits, or they might crochet and knit. And it is fun to always talk about your own projects and like see what other people are making. So I do love talking about like with other people, but sometimes I'm like, I want to get in the zone. This is my time to just be, and I want to just knit and crochet. Trust me, girl, I get it. That's how I am. That is why I bring my headphones and not my ear pods. I don't want people to talk to me while I'm knitting. Just let me be my peace. This is my time. And like if I am open, then I will take my headphones off and I'll engage in conversation. It's always fun and people are always super impressed by it because you don't often see people making things with their hands. So kudos to you. Speaking of which, I am curious. What projects are you working on right now? I would love to hear all about them. So make sure to comment them down below. And I am really excited to see what all y'all say because your girl needs some new patterns. I say this and I literally have another test knit I need to like after this. I'm like too much on my plate at the moment. I have too many test knits. I counted it up and I have done like 5 test knits this year. I'm getting a little burnt out from it. And I have a lot of ideas for like designs for things I want to make and get more testers to work on. So that is something that I want to kind of step back from and then try to build my own pattern writing and build my own patterns because I really do like the idea of that. A piece of warning is I find that whenever I try to knit and travel, I make so many mistakes. It's not even funny. The amount of times I've had to go back and restart this, not all the way, but like parts where I had done, I believe 3 or 4 rows like a main join and the mesh just wasn't lining up right, so I had to go back and like it's been too many to count. I think that this is part of just traveling and like being in your typical knitting spot and having other like inputs. So I do find that I do make a lot more mistakes. So I would advise like more while you work on your projects and just be mindful that like happen. It's not the end of the world. It's still a garment and you can tinker with it. That is honestly one of my favorite parts of knitting. Like the pattern is there, but you will make mistakes. You can be the best knitter in the world and you will still make mistakes. It is just part of the process. But an advanced knitter will know how to go back and fix those mistakes or learn to live with it. I think that's the elite tier. Being able to get to a place where it just doesn't even bug you anymore. I am still working on getting to that point, but I have gotten to the point where like I can go back and like and it is pretty easy to go back and fix. I would like to do a video series about tips on how to like and frog knitting patterns because it is a little tricky. And like I have found that like crochet at least it's a little easier because like you just have to rip back like all that you've done. But with knitting it's really nice because you only have to rip back part of it, like whatever you're trying to fix usually. So that is really super duper handy. And if y'all would like to see that, I will definitely have that in my cards coming up here eventually. I would love to continue doing more series like of what I'm working on, but I also have some ideas to like how other beginners get into knitting and crochet because I just love talking about it. And it's really fun talking with people that are interested in it that haven't done it before because they always think that it's such like a hard entryway to get into, but I have found that it's honestly not that bad. Like when you actually get started and get into the groove, you get addicted and then you end up making your entire wardrobe. Like it's so fun and so relaxing. But I'm really enjoying this top. Also, I can't wait for this top to be done because once I'm done it'll show off the muscles really nice and that'll be so freaking cool. I believe that I will end up making this in more colors because I can already foresee myself falling in love with it. I love halter tops, I love lace work, I am just obsessed with it. And I would like to thank Vera for making this pattern. I do have a few comments to make on it about, but this pattern has been super fun because the like lace work is like complicated enough, but once you get the hang of it, it's a very easy one to like pick up on and memorize. I've done other lace work and it's a little bit more complicated where I have to look at the pattern the entire time. This one, after about like 2 or 3 motifs, I kind of got it and I could remember it without having to go back and look at it, which has been really nice. So I really like that. I also just love, I hope that the fit is good. I'm anticipating it is. I do want to try it on here soon just to see how it's fitting. And I'm so excited. I really hope I can get this done by Saturday to wear. I won't be able to block it, but I do think my hotel has a steamer, so I could try steaming it. I might have to do that. Pro tip, if you do not have a blocking place, that is a good one for traveling with your own handmade garments. Steamers, they are the best things ever. They are God's gift to the world for us knitters and crocheters with handmade garments. But in conclusion, I think that the biggest takeaway here is to pick your pattern carefully for when you do travel. Maybe don't bring the big blanket that you're working on, or the chunky cardigan, or the giant Bulbasaur that you're crocheting. It's probably not gonna be the best in terms of traveling. That might be better at home to work on while you're watching When Harry Met Sally, or whatever other, or Fight Club. But I would say pick your project carefully. In terms of what to bring, just bring what you need. You do not need to bring your entire knitting kit. All you need is the needles that you're working on. Maybe double in the needles if you're into that. I am not. The right size scissors if you're flying. Enough yarn. Not too much and not too little, because if you have too little, then you'll be sad. And no one wants to be sad while crafting. And also bring enough stitch markers. That is key. And traveling and knitting is such a fun thing. I found that like every time I work on a project while traveling, I always see that garment in terms of the travel I went to. So for example, the dress I was proposed to in, I made that while visiting my friend out in Oregon. And now whenever I look at it, I think of that time when I was visiting her. And it is just such a fun like reminder. And I honestly would like to get to a place where some point I could just make a small souvenir for myself while traveling to then be like a memento, almost like a souvenir, but it's that I make it. Or even like yarn up from wherever I travel to. I have seen that online too, like a scan of yarn from wherever they travel to and then make something with it so it can be their souvenir. And I love the idea of that. And maybe that could be something I look into while I'm here. I don't know, we'll see. But I do love getting yarn, and also getting yarn from different places is always fun. The next time I go to Europe, I want to get some more yarn because all their yarn out there is so nice. I went to the UK once, and when I was there, I went to a yarn store. Oh, it was so nice. They had like wool and all sorts of nice stuff. I would love to do a little tour through Scotland just to see all the wool out there. Oh my gosh, that would be my dream. Anyhow, yes, it is definitely possible to travel while knitting. It is just, there does take some planning ahead of time, but I highly recommend it. It's the best way for me to like waste time all on a plane or like a bus. It makes the time fly by. It's been so many times where I've worked on a project for an hour and it feels like 10 minutes. And I'm like, what? Where'd the time go? I just have on my audiobook or music, Taylor Swift, if you know. And I just cruise out and it's so nice. I highly recommend it to anyone. And hey, even if you're getting into it, just maybe knit to knit. Like literally, you don't have to be making anything. You can make a scarf. And that's a really great thing to travel with, honestly. But I am actually going to take it away with this, and then hopefully in my next vlog about this pattern I'll be done with it, fingers crossed, so then I can wear it to the national park. That would be so cool. I'd be a very happy girl. But with all that,